Guys, what's up? I'm still trying to process this right now, so give me a second. uh, man, wow, 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 wow. I, I am fucking stunned. I am speechless. I loss of words. I I don't know. I don't know. I just figured I'd just come on here and just like try to process what's going on. Yeah, Carson, I feel you, man. Like that, my immediate reaction was just holy shit. Holy shit. What else is there to say? Oh, man. It's so funny because I was like, I woke up today and I was thinking, like, man, like you think about like the schedule for the NHL, like the next week and a half or so. Like the draft is on Friday, next Friday. We see trades, and I was actually just looking, like you look at the last few years, Rob Blake, all of his trades have come down before the draft at like a week or so before the draft. What Victor Arvidsson 3 years ago was like 3 days before the draft. Kevin Fiala 2 days ago or 2 years ago was like a week before the draft. Pierre Dubois was like 3 days before the draft last year. So I was thinking, like, dude, there's got to be, and you see all these other trades that are going down across the NHL and like movement and stuff, and like thinking, like, oh, there got to be like moves that have already been agreed upon by teams, and they're just kind of holding steady because they didn't want to take away a lot of the attention from the final that's going on, which is a great game last night, by the way. And so when you saw like some moves start to come in today, I was thinking, like, man, I'm sure like there's going to be like moves coming down the pipe like left and right today. And sure enough, we saw it. Like the first move, what was it? The Markstrom deal going to the Devils, which I think was a great move for both teams. You have Delandry going from Dallas to San Jose. You have San Jose picking up Barkley Goudreau. And I'm like, oh, like, man, I wonder like what Rob Blake is doing. Like, I'm sure he's got something in the works. Maybe he's looking to pick up like a player or like top six winger, goalie, whatever, something's going on. And then we see this fucking bombshell come off. And I'm thinking, like, oh my God. Like the amount of talk that have been like I see still I used to you see articles still coming out about like the buyout with Dubois, like, oh, like if they're gonna do it, like we gotta wait to see because like this could be coming up to 7 games, or the Stanley final could be going to 7 games, then we're kind of like get away from the any chance of buying out Dubois. And then you see this fucking bombshell drop. And like I'm gonna throw out profanities and curse a lot tonight or today. So it is what it is. But like I think it's entirely warranted because this is just insane. This is insane, right? This is absolutely wild. And like I'm trying to process this like from a non-emotional standpoint because right now, like this seems like an incredible deal for the Kings, right? Like in if you look back with how things went out with Dubois, it just didn't work. Didn't work for the first year. And even though like I thought like there was talks about utilization, like it just didn't, like they weren't using him right. And so you just have to like think about like from a just straight up trade standpoint. The Kings traded a 1-for-1 Pierre Dubois for Darcy Kuemper with no salary retained. That looks like an incredible deal for the Kings, right? Like you would think That's like awesome. But then like I agree, like you have to look, and I see a lot of people in the chat talking about it too, like Carter Rubin right here, like points it out. It's the right call, the great deal in the moment, but man, it really stings losing Velarde and Darcy for Kuemper. You're trading like Gabe Velarde, Sean Darcy, Rasmus Kupari, whatever. I follow kind of whatever. But you're trading these players for our goalie, which I'm like, man, like losing that, it's just like it kind of feels like the Cal Peterson trade all over again, where it's like just Rob Blake cutting his losses, and like, yeah, you want to celebrate the fact that he did well in getting rid of Peterson, but he also had to trade quite a bit of assets just to get out of a bad deal that he signed. And this kind of feels like what he's doing now, right? It kind of feels like the same kind of situation where he traded a ton of assets for a player like oh man, like I wish like I need to we need to talk to Rob Blake. Like he needs to answer like so many questions. There's so many questions that need to be answered. Like you traded like so many prospects, not so many prospects. You traded high end assets and Gabe Velarde and Sean Darcy to squeeze in a player you thought was going to be this future center, top six centerman for the Kings to kind of back up Byfield, and now all of a sudden you're just like cutting your losses the first year, like after 1 year, and like I know, I think Dubois was very well liked in the locker room. Like I don't think there was anybody that like any teammates of his that didn't like Dubois. Like we saw videos of him with Cam Talbot and Blake Lazard after the season, like they're hanging out, drinking, have a good time, and his relationship with Quentin Byfield. Like I thought he was very well liked in the locker room. But man, like I see like I mean, I saw things at like practices. Like I think this is Hiller. I think a lot of this has to do with Hiller and like the relationship that he had with Hiller. I don't like I would I remember one practice where Dubois kind of half-assed it during a drill, and Hiller kind of went up to him and just kind of wanted to like motivate him, like, dude, we need you to do this, blah, blah, blah. Like I couldn't hear what things were saying, like all pure speculation, right? But from what I'm watching this practice, and then Dubois just kind of turns his back, and I see Hiller just kind of follow him, say, like, dude, what the hell? So I wonder how much this has to do with Hiller and stuff like that. But man, like, oh man, I don't know. Like I'm still processing this. Like for here, let me bring up. So first of all, let's just talk about the trade, right? Let's talk about the trade in the vacuum. Pierre-Luc Dubois, 7 more years left, $8.5 million, right? 8.5. To make sure that's right. Oh, the cap friendlies have already established the trade. Yeah, so I believe it's 8.5. So Darcy Kuemper. Here, let's just do this. I have cap friendly up right here, which it's funny because I'm like the first thing I do is go to cap friendly, and we're gonna end up losing them in like a couple weeks, which is gonna suck, but it is what it is. Hold on, Darcy Kuemper. I'm trying to bring up his salary cap so I can show you guys. Here we go. Sorry if I'm lagging a little bit. Here we go. Darcy Kuemper. So it's an expensive goalie to have on the books. Still, I guess he won a cup. He's been in LA before. I mean, by all accounts, I wasn't covering the Kings, so I didn't really get to know Kuemper or talk to Kuemper that much. But everything that I had heard from everybody else, it sounds like he's a pretty good teammate, and he liked his time in LA. Didn't have a good year last year with Washington. Modified no trade clause that begins June 1st, or I guess it already started. 10-team no trades list. So he had to agree to the trade himself. which is crazy. Did PL Dubois have a no trade clause? I forget. I guess I could look it up. Maybe one of you guys can answer me. I think it was going to start soon, or it already started. But to be honest with you, like if you look just strictly at this trade, yeah, he did. Thanks, Shan. Would start it activated July 1. Okay, so yeah, so this, oh man, like I don't know. Like I wonder what PL Dubois thinks about this deal. This is Rob Blake saying like, dude, you weren't nearly the player that I thought you were going to be when we acquired you. So I mean, props to Blake for that, I guess. Like, dude, he realizes he didn't get the player he thought he was going to be. You could question whether he utilized him right. I did. I certainly did. And I know I saw LeBron say PL is excited. Um, I mean, what else is he going to say though? He's like, I'm pissed. I'm so pissed. Like, of course he's going to say he's excited. Like, this is what this guy's always said. And like, I'm not going to knock PL because like, yeah, his play was his shit. It is what it is. I thought it was a good move at the time. You guys know that. I said I said it's a great trade. You bring in a top 6 center. They never use him like a top 6 center. They obviously played their cards, showing that they wanted to keep playing Phil Deneau. Yeah, said he was excited to come to LA. Like maybe he was. He was excited to come to LA. He got the deal he was looking for. Great for him. But like, man, like I'm sure he's oh, I don't know. Like I'm sure he's got to be pretty salty about it. I would just love to know like when discussions like this like took place. When did it come to the forefront like hey, like was it during Jim Hiller's like interview like to be the head coach like hey, like I'll be the head coach, but we got to figure out a way to get rid of this Dubois kid. Like there's no way he's going to stick around. Like because that was Hiller. That was what Hiller talked about when he became the head coach was, hey, like I took this job because they gave me free reign to make any decision I wanted. So Hiller had to know this was going to happen, right? This isn't just Rob Blake doing that. And this is a crazy good trade for the Kings. And like just this year, like I'm not looking back at like the giving up the assets in Darcy and Velarde. Like this trade right now has to look good. This has to look like a huge win for the Kings. I mean, Pierre Dubois, he's been the laughing stock of the NHL for the whole year, right? The $8.5 million, the Kings have been the laughing stock. You have to look at it as if you're a Kings fan and anyone across the league and say, wow, the Kings did incredibly well getting out of a deal that everybody thought was terrible. I mean, he scored 40 plus points, which I still think he's a much better player than that. And the Kings have to like Kings totally used him wrong, but even still, like this is a great deal for LA. Like, and you give the King how much did the Kings cap space now? 23 million cap space. I mean, you had Darcy Kuemper play well for the Avalanche, win a cup for the Avalanche. Obviously, the Avalanche are a more high-powered offense, but now you got him coming to a team who's much better defensively. I feel like. I mean, now not to compare the two teams back then, but like in terms of like comparing him, I guess, to the Capitals where he was playing, I feel like the Kings are a much better defensive team or a more structured defensive team that they talk about. So I would expect Kuemper to be a better player. Like, I mean, a Kuemper Rittich combo. You kind of look at those two players together. Rittich, I feel like they're getting incredible value at only $1 million, right? Especially with how he played last year. So to have your two goalies signed for next year at 6.25 mil, Kuemper and Rittich, I don't think that's a bad tandem. I think it's a pretty good tandem. Probably a much better tandem, I feel like, than what they had last year, even though Talbot played incredibly well. Excuse me, and went to the All-Star game. You're also paying them a lot more. What Talbot and Rittich last year was like 2.5 mil. So you're doubling the price. But even then, you're looking at a player in a goaltender in Kuemper who is 34 years old. So just turned 34 in May. Older goaltender still. But I mean, you have Kuemper at 5.25 mil for the next 3 years. Hopefully, he continues to play, or he plays at a better rate than what he did for the Capitals. And then you have Portillo coming up, so you have a little bit of flexibility for this year with Portillo still in the wings. He's going to obviously start in Ontario, and then you have Kuemper for the next 2 years after that. And then when Portillo's ready, they can kind of mix and match and maybe switch back and forth, have a 1A, 1B kind of combination going forward. But like, if I'm, yeah, like, so like, I think it's a good deal for the Kings. It just sucks that you're kind of eating the losses again to kind of bounce off of the eating the losses of the Cal Peterson move. It's the same kind of, it's the same thing. Like, you're gonna, like, I was the same way. Like, I was excited they got rid of Peterson. They created a ton of cap space. Not really a ton, but I think it was like $3 million because they're still paying Provorov. This is the same kind of thing. Like, but the fact that they weren't able, they did it without retaining any salary. That was what I was worried about when I first saw this deal. When I saw Friedman's original tweet that they were trading Dubois to Washington, I was thinking, like, man, if they have to eat salary for the next 7 years of this deal, I might jump out the window. Like, that would be fucking insane. But the fact that they made this deal like a 1-for-1, you get a pretty solid goaltender who could be your starter for the next couple years. Very expensive in my taste. Like, I would never pay a goalie more than $5 million, depending on who the goalie is. Expensive for my taste, but you get a pretty solid goalie who's going to be your 1A, 1B for the next few years. I like it. And then you get rid of Dubois, like, for no retention. That's just insane. Like, I wonder, like, what are the Capitals doing? Like, why would the Capitals do this, right? Like, they got to be like, they got to go in a rebuild soon. Like, yeah, get Ovechkin his great, like, beat the record for Ovechkin, but like, why? It makes no sense for the Capitals. Like, I haven't really seen the discussion around. Oh man, I haven't seen the discussion around Twitter so much. But man, this feels like this is crazy. I don't know. I think, Chris, I see you. I still feel like Rittich is great. I don't know if he's better than Kuemper. I feel like they're really similar. I don't know if you trade Kuemper. I don't think you trade Kuemper, but man, like, you kind of look at it like, oh man, like, I don't know. It's weird because I want to be so excited. It's just like, man, like, I don't know if, like, you can be so stoked for Blake because I'm not sure, man. Like, like, you have to be excited though if you're a Kings fan right now. You have to be excited. Definitely creates more flexibility. I wonder what this means for Byfield. I feel like if they're okay, let's talk about like how this looks for the roster, right? You would expect Byfield to maybe be the center if they don't go out and sign a center. So like, you have, like, I thought Byfield looked great. Obviously, breakout year last year, was great on the wing. I would have been fine with him to continue playing on the wing. That's where he's been playing well. But even in the few times that we saw him play center, I still thought he still was able to carry that line, play well. And maybe that's kind of why they were like, okay, well, now we have to figure out a way to get Byfield back to center. Have to figure out a way, which, like, I wasn't so like stoked on, like, okay, we need to move Byfield back to center so quickly. Like, he's still a young player. He's only 21 years old. Kopitar's going to be around for 2 more years. You can move Byfield back to center around 23, 24. That'd be totally fine. But it seems like they're really gung-ho. I mean, we don't know yet how the rest of the offseason is going to shake out, but it seems like they're really gung-ho on moving Byfield back to center and kind of really establishing his development as a centerman now. So I'm curious to see, like, this is, I don't know if Rob Blake has other intentions in mind, like in terms of like who else he's going to go for. But if you're able to get get away from a 7-year deal. Like, look at this cap situation now for the Kings. They don't have any forwards signed more than $8 million now. Man, Kubiak, like if this gives them enough, I mean, I would think it gives them enough cap space to go after Natchez. It gives them a ton of cap space. It feels like gives them a lot of long-term flexibility. I don't know if this is that Natchez is the type of player that they want to go after. I mean, I want to see like did they say anything? No retention is mind blowing, right? That has to be like. Oh, I need to check my emails. Okay, Rob Blake is doing a Zoom call at 1:15. 1:15. Man, I wish I could be able to like stream it live on here. That'd be pretty cool. I doubt they'll let me do that, but I doubt they'll do it live. But that should sure be fun, right? Hold on. So what? Okay, let's just ask you guys now. What questions do you want to hear from Rob Blake? Because I'll ask him. I'll ask whatever questions you guys want to hear from Rob Blake. Throw them in the chat. I'll see some good ones. I'll see if I can get raise my hand in the Zoom call and try to ask some questions for you guys because there's got to be a ton of questions, right? Like you gotta like just like piling it back in my head. Like there's gonna be like when did discussions like this start? Like what like do you see this move as like a starting point for Quentin Byfield to move back to center now that you got rid of a centerman? Like what does it say? I guess what does it say about your commitment to Dubois last year and everything you said about him? Like what does it say about that? Right? Man. Yeah, what's the next priority? Brandon, I see that. What's the next priority? I mean, I would think it'd be a winger, right? I mean, if you're moving Quentin Byfield back to center, what's the depth chart look like right now? Okay, so cap friendly has Byfield, Kopitar, Kempe. So you would think like LW1 open. You move Quentin Byfield back to center with Fiala, who's looked really good. I like it. Trevor Moore. See, they need like two wingers. They need like two wingers, right? Oh, we got Rob Blake in the chat. Look. What does this open up cap space mean for the offseason? More changes, different approach, or just solving a mistake? We do need an LD1, Morgan. I agree. I mean, man, like if this open up's moved, like I don't know if anyone's mentioned it, but Brady Shea. Like I wonder if this opens up a spot for like even still, like even if it does open up cap space, I still don't know if re-signing Matt Roy would be a good move. Obviously, it does nothing to do with cap space. It's just about the open spot for Clark and Spence, right? Will they consider bringing back RV? I don't see that. It sounds like Arvidsson wants to head somewhere else. Wants to try somewhere new. Dakota Joshua, that'd be my pick. I don't want Derek Forbert. I'm sorry, Chris. Been there, done that. We need some puck movement. Give me some fun. Give me some dynamic playmaking. More Pierce says plays for Turcotte. Yeah, Turcotte's making the team. That's no doubt. Like Turcotte and Akil Thomas, they're making the team. Question for RB: is adding more veteran presence a priority, or is the focus on helping the youth develop? He'd probably say both. I'm sure they're still looking to add a veteran presence. Trevor Lewis is probably going to be re-signed. I bet you. Not that I'm okay with that, but the way Rob Blake talked about him at the end of the year, I wouldn't be surprised if he's back. Cody CC. Fucking Jaden, you're crazy. Jaden, you're an Oilers fan. I still love you though. Trade for Natchez. Yeah, I see a lot of Natchez. I don't know what that trade would look like. It'd be very expensive. Like a trade for Natchez is not going to be cheap. By the way, I mean you're looking at probably a better player than when they traded for Fiala. I feel like, and that was a first round pick in Brock Faber. So you're Jake DeBrusk. I like it. Not crazy. I'm not opposed. I wouldn't mind Tyler Toffoli coming back. Right. Tyler Toffoli would be kind of fun. Like a 2-3 year deal. Cali been a first for Dubois. That's hilarious. Toffoli QB Fiala. There we go, Kevin. Now we're talking. Doesn't that sound so fun? You have like a pure playmaker in Fiala. You have a shooter or scorer in Toffoli. QB is kind of the do it all. I feel like this is huge for Byfield. This trade also signifies that they're like very all in on trading. Also wonder like what this. I think one question I'd like to ask is like, how do you view this team? Do you still view this team as a cup contender now, going forward, or is this kind of like is this kind of like, hey, we showed our cards and now we're trying to like retool a bit? So, I mean, the rest of the moves, like I wanted them to get younger, right? I don't want them to commit too much to like older players. I'd like to get younger. Obviously, traded for a 34-year-old goalie, but even then, like if you're trading, like that trade withstanding, like that's a good move. So I'd like them to see them get a little younger, right? Not that they're incredibly like an older team, but you have players like look at these ages for some of these players. Kempe's 27, 29 for Moore, 31 for Deneau, Fiala 27. So, I mean, they're getting up there. They're not incredibly old, but I would like to get players that are like 23, 24, right? I mean, this is why we're bringing in youth like Turcotte, who's going to be in there for 23 years old. Akil Thomas is going to be there. I believe he's 23 as well. Or he's 24, sorry. So, like, get players that are 23, 24, 25, around that age. Yeah, like Dubois. Yeah, Dubois is 25. Oh man. Yeah, Kemper's contract, Jacob, I totally agree. I mentioned that earlier. Kemper's contract, it kind of falls in line with where Portillo's development is at. Because you have Portillo signed his entry level deal, even still then, I don't even need to. Where's it at? It's on here. I think he's an RFA actually. So even then, like his deal's not going to be that expensive. He's going to be in the minors for the next couple of years. Are you scared QB might get offer sheet? No, I'm not scared. Offer sheets are dinosaurs in the NHL now. Jock says Ehlers. I don't know about Ehlers anymore. I don't know about trading for Ehlers. I would have liked Ehlers would have been good if they were going to keep Dubois, but I mean Ehlers is going to be a UFA after this coming season. So trading for a UFA when we don't really know Like, what are the expectations? Like that's going to be the big question now. Is what are the expectations for this team going forward? Like next year, right? Are we expecting this team to be a contender? At this point, you could look at the lineup. Like, I don't see it. I see them still being a playoff team, but contender, no. So I don't know if they're in a position to trade for anybody that's going to be like more of a win now, right? Like, but even still, then, right? Like Blake, he said it. He said at the end of season deal, they're expecting they want to take the next step, and he needs to see more progress in the playoffs. So they're still trying to win, and Kopitar is not here to retool. He already said that too as well. Oh man, this is wild. What a wild day. Radic Faxa. I like the name. I don't really know his game too much. MD says, I miss the Twitter Spaces community, bro. I do too. Season feels like it's like so. It feels like it was so long ago. Yeah, Wild Wednesday. Man, I'm trying to look back to see. I saw you guys asking some questions. Our pal Rob Blake says, "How did this trade come to be? Was he shopping Dubois, or did Washington come to him? If he was shopping Dubois, was this the best deal? I mean, I don't know a better deal that he probably could have got without retaining salary. To be honest with you, like everybody's got to be thinking about this. Like, what the hell is Washington doing? Right? That's my first question. I just don't. Oh man, what do we do now? Right? What is this offseason going to shape up to be? Because I feel like they were extremely well. Not feel like they were extremely limited in terms of like the amount of space and moves they could have made before this deal. But now you have some flexibility to go out and try to get something. I mean, they just opened up $5 million in cap space. Gonzo, I totally agree. I thought this trade was going to work out. It didn't. It didn't work out. Got to eat our words. It is what it is. 3 million. Sorry, you're right. Thanks, JC. I said 5 million. Thanks, Nav. I forgot Kuemper's 5.25. Even still, I mean, they were going to spend money on a goalie anyway, but I didn't expect them to get an expensive goalie, go out and sign an expensive goalie. But yeah, we need to get that extra money needs to go to a solid, like either scoring winger or LD, like 1 or 2. So crazy. Rob Blake just like works totally in the shadows, man. Just totally in the shadows. Nobody sees it coming, and then Friedman drops a bomb. PLD was the Kings' version of Anthony Rendon. I think the Angels are actually stuck with Rendon, though, unfortunately. I see people, yeah, Rosho. I see people saying that the Kings should trade up. There's no reason to trade up into a draft. This draft, there's no reason. They're 21. That'd be trading up 11 picks. That'd be very expensive to trade up, and the Kings aren't in any position to trade future assets to move up to draft one player. Like, even though that player could be good, we need to like refill this cupboard, right? We need to refill this prospect cupboard because that top prospect pool that we talked about for a couple years is not that like full anymore, right? If you have Turcotte, who knows what that's going to look like, Thomas, like these are like our best prospects. They're going to fill some roster spots. Don't get me wrong. Like I feel like they're going to be really solid players for the Kings, and I'm really high on Akil Thomas and what he's going to do with LA this year. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Akil Thomas started in a middle 6, top 6 role for the LA to start the season. But even still, then like after that, like who do we have? Who's going to be? Who are you excited about if you're a Kings fan as a prospect? Jack Hughes. Who knows how that pick's going to look out? Jacob Dvorak. I'm not sure. I'm pretty high on some other guys, but even then, like you're talking about third, fourth, fifth round picks that there's no first round pick. Like there's no first round pick that's going to be kind of waiting in the wings for the Kings now. All the first round picks are going to be probably in the NHL next year. So there's nothing besides the first round pick that they have this year. Jacob says we got to trade Gavrikov if they're bringing in an LD1. Yeah, Gavrikov has a no movement clause. I don't know. Like, you're not going to get a lot for Gavrikov, right? Even still, like, even without the no movement clause, you're not going to get that. So you'd have to approach him to see if he'd be willing to move it. But if he is being moved, or if he could be moved, that'd be huge, especially with no retention. Even still with retention, I feel like that could be pretty huge. Like, Gavrikov that's pretty expensive, right? 5.875 mils, almost 6 mil. But even still, if you're able to get rid of at least like 4 mil of that and go out and sign, like create more flexibility to go out and sign a player like either Shea, somebody like that, like that'd be huge. Just I don't want Zadorov. Like, can we stop with the Zadorov talk? Like, I get it. Like he looked really good in the playoffs for Vancouver, but even still, then like they need some dynamic. And I know that like Jordan Spence and Brent Clark, just inserting them into the lineup is going to be like huge. It's going to improve it like tremendously. The playmaking that we're kind of looking for on the back end. But even still, then like there's got to be something on the left side because you have Anderson, you have Gavrikov, and you have Englund. That's still not that great. It's still not that great. I need a little bit more. Like I love Mikey Anderson. I still don't think he's a solid LD1. I think they could find better there, even though him and Doughty have kind of looked pretty good together. But you still need something else there. You need another solid left shot defenseman that you can throw out there, like I guess late minutes. Even though I think Brent Clark could be that guy. Maybe even pair Brent Clark with Drew Doughty in later minutes. But even still, like at a full like I need a solid like left shot defenseman that's going to be able to eat like 20 plus minutes a night, play solid. Every situation. What grade do you guys give this trade? And I want you guys to think about like in its entirety, because you have to think about like this is you're giving away. You traded like pretty much you traded Darcy and Velarde for Darcy Kuemper, right? That's it. But I mean, like even still, like I don't know. It's still hard to I guess combine the two. Like this trade, yeah, trade number 2. Like I agree, Chris. Like this trade right here is an A. It's an A plus, right? But if it's an entirety, probably like a C minus, D plus. Trapper says Jersey was in a different trade. Trapper, they used that second round pick they got for Jersey in the trade for Dubois. So you have to include Jersey in that deal. You have to include Jersey in this. The second rounder they got for him was in the Dubois trade. Even though, like, I'm a lot higher on Jersey than probably others are, and maybe a lot in the NHL maybe view Jersey on being. But even still, then I still think he's a pretty solid defenseman. You got a high end second round pick for him, so the Coyotes certainly thought he's a solid defenseman. I think he's a really solid culture guy. Like, I mean, Jersey was very well liked in the locker room. You saw him walk into games with Phil Deneau, doing the yoga stuff on the ice with Gavrikov. Like, he was a very well liked guy. He had some definitely defensive laps, but yeah, this is I think JC kind of sums it up, right? Velarde, Kapari jersey for Kuemper is an F. Shedding Dubois contract for Kuemper is an A. So it's like Like I feel like we're on that meme where it's like, what what movie is it in or show is it in Sopranos? Like, or I don't know, Godfather. I could be wrong. You guys can yell at me. It's fine. But like he's like, first I was out and now I'm back in. It kind of feels what it feels like, right? But like this move today is definitely an A. Definitely an A. But Byfield, like this has got to be this is Byfield moving to the center, right? Moving back to center. When's the Oh man. What do you think the reaction is going to be when the Capitals come to LA? You think are fans going to boo Dubois? Do we boo Dubois? Do we just kind of what are we going to see oh man, are we going to see like a tribute video? Oh, this could be so funny. Dalek says booze. Tribute video is going to be 1 second. Booed loudly. Okay, Jason, I see you. All booze. uh, what was the last tribute video that I saw? Was like, oh man, this is gonna be kind of awkward. I guess the Vlardy one, right after the Vlardy one, when he like said made that comment about Lazat, that one was kind of met with mixed emotions. This one's gonna be interesting. Like that's the thing though. It's like okay, say what you will about Dubois, like his effect on the ice, and I guess his actual play, but like it wasn't like it's like hard to hate the guy outside of the ring. Like I said, like he was a very well liked guy in the locker room. Players loved being around him. Quentin Byfield and him, like we're besties, right? But like his play was just is terrible. It was awful. I just like if I'm the Capitals, like what the hell are you? What are you doing? Yeah, and the same thing, Nav. Like he never was like he always was available to talk about. Always was available. Answered any question that was asked of him. I thought he was very forthcoming in the exit interview. But I don't know. So what do we think is next? I saw someone ask, "What do I think is next?" And I guess that's probably a question we can ask Blake, right? What's next in the agenda? Where do you see is this I think one question I want to ask him is like, okay, does this kind of point to is this a precursor of a move to Quentin Byfield back to center? Is that where that goes because you traded away your center? And then also, what is the next move after that? Do you see what are the other needs that you feel like this team um, needs to go out and get in the offseason or in this before the draft? I mean, we could probably see another trade come down tomorrow or even at the draft. That's got to feel like the top questions, right? What's next for Byfield? What and um what's the next move for LA? What players are they looking for? Looking for a scoring winger or are they looking for like a winger? Are they looking for help on the left side of the defense? Yeah, but I feel like the next domino is definitely Quentin Byfield's contract. We'll have to ask him. We'll have to ask Blake about that. Where things stand with Byfield, where things stand with Roy. Um, those are questions that I'm sure everybody's going to wonder. We got 25 minutes. I'll stay live on here for another 20 plus minutes until the Rob Blake presser. It's going to start at 1:15 Pacific time. Bertuzzi or Perron? I'd like to see Perron. I don't know about Bertuzzi. I like how he looked in the playoffs. I thought he's really good a couple years ago for Boston. I thought he was pretty good for Toronto this year. He's always been a solid playoff performer. So, but I mean, Perron, we all know David Perron. He's always been a thorn in the Kings' side his entire career. It feels like just like I don't know, like how does Rob Blake view this team like next year? Do you view this team as a legitimate cup contender, or is this like a sign that you're kind of pulling back a little bit? So what are the centers now? The centers are Kopitar, Byfield, who I would expect to be Byfield, Deneau, and Lazat still unsigned. They still, I guess, have a room for a 4C. Dakota Joshua, yeah, I'm with you, Benjamin. I would love to see Dakota Joshua. That would be like perfect. He's younger. I don't know how much younger actually. I could be wrong there. I think he's 27. Even still, then you get to Dakota Joshua at like 3-4 years. Morgan says, I think it might be best for this year to be a 1-year retool to give the kids development, then go all in for 25, 26. Josh was 28. Thanks, Jason. I could see that. The thing, yeah, I could see that. Just go all in with the kids for this year. Look at this, like look at this depth chart. Hmm. I mean, that doesn't scream like cup contender at all, right? Johnny Utah is trying to tickle my fancy right here with Dakota Joshua and Jacob Chikrin. That'd be nice. Chikrin's only got 1 year left in his deal, though, so I would like to see an extension coming with that. It's so funny because I thought like I wasn't. I want to say I wasn't like that excited for this offseason because there were still moves to be made if you're Blake, even with Dubois still around. But now, like, who knows at this point, right? Like everything's on the table. You already got your goaltenders now for next year, unless they flip Kuemper, but I don't see that happening. Um, I guess that's another question we'll have to ask Blake: is Darcy Kuemper like? Is there any thought of moving Kuemper at all, or is he expected to stick around? We should. They're not going to go tanking though. They're still trying to win with Kopitar still around. Like Kopitar was asked specifically, like, do you would you be okay with sitting around for a retool? And he said, no, not at all. Fagamo, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with Fagamo. I don't. Not that I'm not like. I don't see him stick like being on the NHL roster, but I'm not like he scored in the AHL. He could just be like one of those guys that like performs really well in the AHL and just can't really figure it out in the NHL. I mean, he got claimed by Nashville, then got reclaimed, so he's been available to every team, and nobody was willing to pick him up. So I'm not really too sure on what his standing is in the NHL. I guess you could say the same thing for Akil Thomas, who was on waivers and nobody claimed him. So, oh man, it's just this is just like a wild day. Oh man. It's like I'm stoked, right? I'm stoked for this trade. This is a great trade. I'm like refreshing Twitter to see if there's like anything, but I mean, we're not going to hear anything else from Blake until for 15 more minutes. This is just wild, right? I mean, if I'm a Capitals fan, I'm just like thinking, like, man, what are we doing? Yeah, I'm with you, Sean. I think Kuemper. I feel like this is a really solid goalie to have on the roster. Like, I think obviously I'm not cool with like his cap hit being at 5.25 mil. That's a lot. But even still, then, like, this is a goalie who's won a Stanley Cup before, so he's obviously been there. He's performed well when playing for good, solid defensive teams. I mean, Cam Talbot was an all-star last year for the Kings, and that was after an awful year for in Ottawa. So you bring in a player like Kuemper. Kemper's going to play well. Like, I'm not like any goalie who's been decent, I guess, in his time in the NHL is going to perform well for the Kings. He's going to perform much better. Like, that's like how, like, every time we see like a forward get traded from a team or from the Kings to like another team, we always see them blow up, right? Like, they always score more, and it is what it is because they're playing in a more open system than what the Kings playing. But that's like the opposite for goaltenders that come from middling teams like Ottawa and come to LA. Like, even like, look at Korpisalo. Korpisalo, like, he looked okay in the playoff games. I thought he's a little shaky in the next in the last few playoff games when he was with LA. But then now look at him with Ottawa. He's looked awful because he's playing for a team that plays no defense. Man, you want to be so like pissed at Blake for even making the trade to begin with, but then you have to like give him his props for like just getting out of a bad deal he made. So it's like I said, it's the same thing. It's like Cal Peterson deal all over again. It's the same exact thing. He made a bad move, but he got out of it. Lindholm is an interesting name. Sounds like he might be pretty expensive. I'm not too keen on signing. Like, I mean, it would be interesting. I'm not totally opposed to it, but Skinner's way too expensive. I agree. Max Domi is interesting. Yeah, Lindholm wants like 7+ mil. That's no thanks. Henrique, nah, I'm okay with that. Think younger, 25 ish, at least 28 or younger. Yeah, Anthony, I totally agree. You got to you got to respect that willingness. He's willing to adjust to on the fly and like get out. Like, we're talking buyout. We were talking buyout. Everybody was talking like the only way they're going to get out of this deal was to buyout. This is incredible. This is way better than a buyout. Insanely better than a buyout. I see a lot of Dakota Joshua, which I'm totally cool with. I'm with you, Dylan. Panzer says Patrick Kane jokes. Okay, good. Oh man, this is like a wild day. This no, I don't want Zegers to OC. I'm not a big Zegers guy. You thought if everybody thinks Dubois is like a locker room cancer, Zegers is even worse. Stamkos? Nah. I don't see Stamkos leaving Tampa Bay. You guys see Stamkos leaving Tampa Bay? Everything else is just negotiation. He's staying. He's not going anywhere. Chandler Stevenson? Stevenson's interesting. Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Chris. I'd be okay with moving more. I mean, yeah, you're totally right. His value will never be higher. I mean, you're talking about a 30 goal scorer in the NHL. Like, just put that next to his name. Like, that's going to be extremely valuable, right? Even though nobody expected him to score 30 goals, and I think his shooting percentage was probably a little bit higher than the average. But even still, then, like, if you're able to get some decent value, like, I mean, if you're able to get like a second round pick and a prospect, I feel like for more, maybe even a decent bottom six winger, I feel like that could be a good move. Tanner Janot, Nick Robertson. Interesting name. Is he available? Oh, this is now we're here. We go. This is the first time I've seen his name mentioned. Leon Draisaitl, free agent this after next year. More on a first for Kaprizov. That'd be pretty funny, seeing how Drew Doughty made the comment how Kaprizov wasn't worth the contract he got. McDavid. I don't want Zibanejad. I saw that. Karaza. I don't want Zibanejad. Arvidsson's gonna get like $6 million. I don't see that. I mean, I could see it. I just wouldn't be okay with that for the Kings. If we're giving Arvidsson $6 million, I'd try to see if we can get Tyler Toffoli at that deal. Get a fan favorite. It's still pretty insane to get RV at $6 million. Trouba for the memes. Oh man, Jacob Trouba in LA, that'd be hilarious. Bring the 70s line back together, JD. Yanni Gord, that's an interesting name. 1 year away from free agency. Lucas Raymond. You're pretty high out there. Fusion. Raymond's in stud. He's an absolute stud. Him and Kuemper at the World Championships together with Eriksson, they were insanely good together. Rob Blake was bold-faced lying in that press conference. Was he though? Like, what did he say? I'm trying to remember what he said. I know he said that he wasn't going to buy him out, which I thought that was true. Buyout was never going to happen. But I mean, what else would he say? Like, this is something. I would love to know when these discussions started. That's the one thing on my mind is how long after the season did you guys come to the conclusion like, hey, we need to just try to get out from underneath this? That's like, see, Richard Ritz, I'm like wondering the same question. Like, if you had to bet Richard Ritz asked, if you had to bet the farm, would you say Rob called the Caps or the Caps called the Kings? I would think Rob called the Caps. I would think Rob's like, that's a move. Like, although I don't know. Like, I could see the Capitals saying like, hey, we know the situation you have Dubois. We know his no movement clause kicks in July 1st. We know there's no buyout situation. Like, what's the value? Like, what can you give? Like, what do we have to give you for him? So I don't know. It could have been either way, but I would feel like my gut feels like that the Kings called the Caps. They were kind of shopping around. But like, I mean, that's what's so weird. Like, you have to give so much props to Blake for this trade specifically. Like this Dubois for Kuemper. You solved the need. You filled the need in getting a goalie, decent goalie in my opinion. And you got rid of a contract that, by all accounts, didn't look good, and for a player that just didn't fit for LA. Maybe he fits for Washington. Maybe he plays really well in Washington. Who knows? But no, he's. Tyler, I don't know. I can't. I don't know if I can stream the presser here. I think they kind of frown upon that. As much as I'd love to. I'm sure they'll put the Rob Blake presser on their YouTube channel shortly following. I don't think they said anything about doing it live. So I'm sure they'll upload it to the YouTube channel afterwards. Dan says, I'm late to the party. Does this open up re-signing Roy? I mean, it could. The only thing is like this, like I mentioned earlier, like re-signing Roy. Like I'd love to see Roy back. The thing is, it's not. It's nothing to do with the money in terms of trying to re-sign Roy because I feel like even at Roy at like 4 years at like 5.5 mil per year, I feel like that's a good value. I'm higher on Roy than a lot of other people, especially when you look at what Philip Roenick got for the Canucks, which I feel like, in my opinion, I'd rather have Roy at his cap hit and what he's going to be signing than what um what Roenick got. But it has nothing to do with Roy's money. It has to do with where do you open up spots for Spencer Clark, right? So like, yeah, I'd love to keep Roy, but you have to have a spot for Spence and Clark on the roster next year. Both of the young players. Spence was great. He probably would have looked a lot better if he wasn't playing with his ball and chain Andreas Englund on the left side the entire year. I share the numbers. Like if you look at the numbers of Jordan Spence in isolation away from England, he's like one of the better defenders on the Kings and across the entire NHL. But he was just stuck with a defenseman who kind of held him back quite a bit. And now you have Brant Clark coming in. Like, how do you get Matt Roy as well? So apparently, I was just told by somebody that the Kings checked in on Saros before doing this deal. So I think it's the Kings calling people. The Kings checked in on Saros. Nashville wanted Brant Clark, is what I was just told, and the Kings said no, which would make sense because yeah, this is you're eating a ton of money in terms of PLD. So teams are going to ask a lot if you're forcing them to take on that contract. But Yakov Trenin, I would have mind Yakov Trenin. I know Blake is. I remember writing in the the um the game after Kings in Nashville when Darcy fought Trenin, and I remember writing the elevator down with like management after the game, Blake and Murray and Robitaille. They were all in the elevator with me, and I kind of overheard them talking about like Blake was like giving glowing reviews of Trenin. He's like, man, that's a guy that fought that Zdeno Chara the other day. So I know they're very well the physicality that Trenton brings. So I'm curious, like that's a player that I'd love to see in LA. That's like you're gonna get some physicality, you're gonna get some PK ability, you're gonna get all that. So I'd love to see a player like Trenton, Joshua, like give me a physical winger that isn't afraid to go to the net, isn't afraid to muck it up a little bit. That's what they kind of need, especially if you're going to have younger players like Turcotte, Thomas, LaFerriere all on the roster next year. I mean, you have the young defensemen too, Brant Clark, Jordan Spence. Like those are young players. They're going to have some kind of physicality now tied to them. It pretty much sums it up, Anthony. Blake went from trade master to master of making good trades to fix bad trades. We got 5 more minutes until this Blake Zoom call, which should be fun. This is just wild. What a wild day. This kind of feels like it's so weird. The Kings just operate in the shadows. So you always see no Rich, I'm gonna hop off to do the to go to this presser or join this Zoom. Um I'll share the quotes and everything on Twitter as the Zoom call is going on. I think the team would probably frown upon it if I shared the link live because it doesn't sound like they're going to post it live. As much as I would love to show you guys, um, you know, I'm all for the fans, but yeah, I mean, Angel gets it. He could have doubled down, with PL, but props. It's just like, how much props do you want to give him? That's the thing. How much praise does Blake give here? Probably not a lot, right? All right, guys, I'm gonna hop off here. The Zoom call is gonna start in 3 minutes. Stay on my Twitter. I'm gonna share all the quotes for the Zoom, and then I believe they're gonna do. They're doing a podcast tonight. Joe and Randon are gonna go live. I won't be able to make it. I actually have I'm doing a sunset tea time after actually at like 3 o'clock. So, but yeah, so I'll share all the thoughts from the press conference. Share as many quotes as I can. So keep an eye out. So crazy, crazy day, crazy day. Appreciate you guys hopping on here for this fun, quick live. But I'll catch you all later.